Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining us at this panel from users to maintainers, Tales from the Open Source World. And I want to ask you to give a big round of applause to our audience, to our speakers, which is CAD, Louis CAD, and Arnaud Giuliani. Awesome, so we're gonna do something a little bit more interactive. We do have a list of questions that we prepared to get through our story as maintainer and users of open source library. And then at some point, we're gonna switch on with Slido, and you will be able to add questions and upvote the one that you want answered by those amazing maintainers. So starting from Arnaud, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us which library you maintain, what you do, and so on.
Yeah, we hear me then. I'm Arnaud, and I'm working on the Coin project, Coin framework, the dependency injection for Kotlin, covering many aspects. And I'm an Android developer and a backend developer also. And the co-founder of Codezilla company, try to power also other open source projects.
Hello, Louis CAD. So I'm working on refresh versions. Maybe some people know it. You can raise your hand. I'm also working, so refresh versions is a Gradle plugin to help you update dependencies, but doesn't update. It just helps you. I'm working also on API simplifiers for Android to have Kotlin-friendly APIs for Android, for all the Android APIs that are not simplified in Android X yet. And also not just Android X, some other stuff, which is Splities. And it's way too big, I want to split it. And otherwise it's random projects. And also contributing a bit to Data2Viz, which is D3.js, but for Kotlin multi-platform. And with type-safe APIs. This is what I'm doing in open source mostly.
Got it. And Ketti?
Hi, my name is Ketti. I'm the maintainer of Thunderbird for Android, which is currently named K9Mail. Yeah, I'm an Android developer, do stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, just to provide context, I'm also a maintainer of several projects, Detect, the static analyzer for Kotlin, Chucker, which is a network debugger, and React Native, which you might know. And yeah, I do a lot of open source stuff. I also have a podcast, it's called The Developers Bakery. It's all about open source. So the topic today is open source. And since we are a DroidCon, I actually want to start with a warm-up question. Like you all are Android or Kotlin developer, I want to ask you, as a user, what is your favorite library? Like, is there a library out there that you take as inspiration, that shines, that you like, this is amazing open source library? Kari?
You're looking at me, so I guess. We actually prepared the answers, and I think my answer is super boring to most of you because my favorite library is OKIO, which is a rather low-level I/O library, but I'm writing an email client, and so that involves a lot of network I/O. I'm a really big fan because the API is really nice, much nicer than what the Java standard library delivers. Also, it's a Square project, and they are pretty decent at making open source libraries, so my favorite.
Louis?
It's also from Square. I think it's SQLite. I like the approach. Also, it's if you have a small improvement or update, it's also easy to contribute to, even though the entire project is quite complicated. And they've been adding support for multiple SQL dialects over time. And it started from external contributions, which is something that I found very inspiring, that even on something that looks quite complicated and also that would seem to add maintenance burden, they still did it. But one of the reasons was also because they wanted to use SQLite in the backend. So supporting not just SQLite was also something that they wanted themselves.
And I know.
On my side, when I think about an Android library, I think about Retrofit. One of the first open source really you can use, and was really amazing, like reducing all this boilerplate and helping you writing HTTP client really quickly then. But Kotlin Corti&cketti is a good one then also.
Nice. It's not a surprise that Square was mentioned thrice by all of you. they're amazing library, obviously. And now I want to ask you, so you're all like experienced maintainers, but let's get back to how you actually started. Like, do you remember what was your first touch point with open source? Like, how was it? Was it hard? How have you started?
I can start if you want.
Yeah.
Started contributing to Eclipse IDE. It was a meta modelization, tooling and stuff. It was a time ago, but then being in the contribution stuff, being in the IDE, the UI, and then the core engines, then all this kind of old UI ticket stuff to pass your code and everything. Then
You?
I don't remember. Probably it was a typo fix in a README or something. And yeah, I don't recall at all what was the first thing. Or maybe it was many years ago. I did some Udacity courses, and there was a project to do. Maybe that was my first real code project on GitHub. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my first couple of contributions were really bug fixes for open source projects I was using, but what really got me hooked on the whole open source thing was actually a bug fix for K9mail, the project I now maintain. Back in 2009, I had to fix it so it works with my email provider. And yeah, I don't know, I made the mistake of never leaving, I guess. So I fixed a couple of bugs and then added some features, and a couple years later, they said, okay, you do a lot of work, now do more. So
That's a recurrent thing. I remember when I got added to the Detect organization, I always liked static analyzers for reasons. I think they're like nice tool that improve your code. And I was sending pull requests, like 2 or 3 pull requests, and then like one day out of the blue, I got this email like, you're now an owner of Detect. And I'm like, I haven't asked for that, but I'm happy to support. So yeah, like it's a recurrent. You get involved, you start fixing things, and you become like a full-time maintainer. Talking about being full-time maintainer, I want to talk about another topic that is a little bit more, we don't spend much time talking about it, which is like the struggles that a lot of people that are open source maintainers are facing daily. Like we do spend quite a good amount of time doing open source. But what are the things that you struggle the most, like managing time and burnout and so on? What are like your hardest point being open source maintainers?
yeah, so for me, it's finding a balance of what to do and what not to do, because as you mentioned, like the time we can spend on this stuff is limited. Now I'm full-time working on open source, but there's always more work than can be done by all the persons we have. So yeah, it's figuring out what needs to be done now, what should be done later, what shouldn't be done at all, which is sometimes also a hard decision to make. Yeah, and then especially for contributions, usually you have to guide first-time contributors to make a meaningful contribution that can be merged. And usually it's it's a lot faster to actually do it yourself. But of course, then those people probably won't contribute to the project anymore. So yeah, sometimes it's finding the right balance, because some people need a lot of hand-holding.
That's so true. You folks, your struggles.
Say again.
Your struggles with open source.
Balancing time. Personally, I've never really been a full-time maintainer, but sometimes it aligns with what I needed to do for my day job. So I would spend 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks on an open source project, and it made sense. But yeah, it's a struggle. So there would be weeks or months or parts of the year, I should say, where I was not feeling like doing anything after work. So the only time where I could do it was when it aligned with the free time that I had at work. And there were other times where I was feeling energized to do it on my free time as well, or I was feeling like I'm also getting one of my personal projects there. It's still not exactly there, but yeah, I don't think I have an easy solution. I was thinking that maybe the folks from Square had a magic formula. And I think I was listening to your podcast. I think they told about that. in the Dave bakery. And it turns out that it's about similar as what I was doing. So which is like sometimes on the job, sometimes on free time, and they just juggle. And for them it's a culture, and for me it was just like what I wanted or could do. So yeah, no magic.
Yeah, I believe time is the precious resource we have all, and then you have to decide. And even I believe there is a documentation and communication also about that. Like you have to maintain, you have to accept other people, other ideas, gather feedback, and also document and communicate. And because if finally of your good idea is just there in GitHub, well, what's going on after that? Then it's all of this, communicating and pushing the idea, and then also trying to gather feedback about those ideas and trying to improve over and over, and not just being alone with your own ideas then.
Got it. Actually, I'm surprised that you folks haven't mentioned what I think is one of my biggest struggles, which is toxicity. And like, I literally, every morning I check through my GitHub notifications, and I try to be as polite as possible. When I answer, I say like, please and thank you to everyone. But yeah, like, I get to discuss with folks that have those generally like those generated avatar from GitHub, like the pixelated one. They don't have a name, and they're like so entitled at times. And like, I don't know, it's just like a friendly reminder to everyone that whenever you interact with GitHub, you're actually writing something that hits a human being. So try to be polite. I don't know, maybe you face that. Like, are people like complaining on Coin that they will move to Dagger and stuff like that if you don't fix the bugs?
It can be super rough, like just even not detail about the crash, but it doesn't work, and say, okay, can you please try to give more details, and just to help all the community, because it doesn't help just throwing stuff, and trying to give some frames about communications and try to go forward step by step. But yeah, just receiving lots of those communication, I see it.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle. Okay, so now the video guy is gone.
Nicola?
I would like to switch to the Slido. Yeah,
Nicola?
got it.
Can I say something about this topic? I want to share something. In refresh versions, we have some contributions. I'm a bit behind pull request review at the moment, but I'm getting back. And we have a template for the issues where we have written hello/bonjour. We expect people to remove one of those two options, but usually they just keep them. But at least they are polite by default.
That's a nice trick.
And it happened to me only once that I had to block someone from the repository. They were complaining about something where the solution was written very clearly in the error message. I told them, please just read the error message, and they were like getting very rough. So after being fed up 3 times, I blocked them. But doing the templates actually helps. Like usually people see, okay, hello is already written. That just makes them like, I'm writing this, I'm sending it there with my name next to it. So yeah.
Got it.
So I had to.
Okay, so I see questions are flowing. You can join the board on slido.com using the code, and you can scan the QR code otherwise. We'll be picking some. You can also vote, and we're not going to answer everyone. Like, we also have other questions on the agenda to answer, but we try to do our best. So yeah, maybe we can pick this one, which is really inspiring. Like, Eugene is asking, what is your motivation? So what is driving you forward? Who wants to answer this one?
Okay. I first start, then you will continue, guys. I believe one day you just wake up with the will to go over some pain and try to solve something, to help, and also perhaps to check around if someone else have this pain, and then this is the way to start and gather around making something better together. And really, this is part of the main motivation, is finally helping more and more people over the world with what we are doing then.
I guess I can continue. So when I first started, it wasn't really about you know, the community or giving back, was just fixing my own problem. But then, of course, other people enjoyed it, and that it kind of gives you a little high. So you help someone and they appreciate it, and then you fix another bug and another person is super happy. So it's as much about helping others as feeling good about myself. So yeah, I guess, you know, in the long term, it's the community. They appreciate what you do. And you always have to remind yourself that there are people who appreciate it, because as Nicola mentioned before, usually you mostly hear of the people that aren't happy with your product or library or whatever. They will let you know when they have problems with it. But yeah.
Yeah, I cannot mine, which is a little bit of a funny story. Like, yeah, if you Google my name, you'll find plenty of images, I guess. I used to be a Boy Scout. And yeah, like one of the mottos is like, leave the world a better place. And to me, open source is the way to like live that style. Like, I really like to improve life of others. That's why like I love to work on developer tools, because it's the best way to improve life of other developers. And I don't know, for me, like I get so much self-fulfillment whenever I know that I made someone else's day. So yeah, that's what drives me forward. I get so much energy from open source, literally. Louis, you wanted to add?
I think we are almost all on the same page. When I find something that is painful and that I have to endure and endure, or it preventing also that are doing something for me, I think, yeah, why not make a solution for everyone? And open source is the easiest way to do this, actually. So that's about saving time also globally, because sometimes some projects you can only do them if it's not too much effort to do them, and sometimes open source projects actually make it much faster to do that app ID or that library ID, because now I get excited about just libraries without any final product. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'd love to jump on the next one, because it's the most voted one, which is it slipped through. So the most voted one now is, how do you make money as a full-time open source developer? So this is like the hot topic of sponsors, and how do you fund your open source work?
I think the general answer is you don't. If you're super lucky, you might. So in my case, last year I was hired by Mozilla. So the Thunderbird team was looking for a version on Android, and I was working on an email client on Android. It was open source, so they said, hey, why not rename this to Thunderbird for Android? And we hire you to work on it full time. Before that, I was asking users for donations, which were kind of okay, better than most open source projects, but it doesn't pay as much as working for a tech company.
Yeah, perhaps the same, like you don't make money with that, but it can open some good roads for your skills. But donations is a way to start, and trying to find sponsors if you have impact with lots of companies that are really big users. It's a good way, and also perhaps trying to make a company like try to make your business around consulting or something else.
Awesome. I want to make a call out to doing GitHub sponsors and Open Collective. Please, donate to open source project. But if you don't want to donate from your own pocket money, please consider going to your organization and convincing them to donate to the project that you depend on. For example, for us, for Detect, we received some big donations in the past, and we haven't asked for them, but some companies came to us and said, we use Detect daily. It helps make our code better, so we're going to give you some amount of money. Everything is public, so you can find it on Open Collective. But that really made my day. When I woke up and I was like, whoa, this? That's impressive. So I do it in my free time, but it really helps me keep being motivated. So yeah, the next question, which is the one I want to jump on, is more on the imposter syndrome kind of thing, and is how to overcome my code is not good enough to contribute.
I'd like to take that one.
Please.
You can just have a look at our code base. Just filter for commits by CATI, you won't be afraid afterwards.
You folks?
Yeah, don't believe that your code is good enough. You can always fix it later. And if you are fixing something, the code that is there was probably less good than yours. And your code is not like, it's not stable. It keeps changing. You keep evolving yourself. There's been many times where I actually learned by contributing to a project. One such example, I learned about detect yesterday because I contributed to get that Z badge thing from the GDG Berlin Android, thanks to them. So I learned about some stuff. I found actually an issue where you commented, Nicola. So I'm not a detect expert by any means, but I was able to fix something. Also, refresh versions, it's not a project that I started. I'm maintaining it most of the time, but at first I didn't know how to make a Gradle plugin at all. And now I know how it is, and I find it easier than making an Android app. Much easier, really, really easier. But before I would think like it's crazy scientists that do Gradle plugins, and now it feels very accessible. So my code was, I had no code actually back then.
I would just advise to contact people, like just begin to talk, to chat about the idea, about your contribution. Like it's a way to start, and there was a good talk yesterday about API making, and it's Josie Wolf, and he said, not sure, it's working. API is hard work, naming, having the right parameters and everything. Then it takes a long time to have the right thing, and then we need to iterate to find the good ideas, but it's a teamwork. You can't just do and post the right patch and say that's perfect. Then the best is to be part of the team and to contribute then.
Yeah, I want to add one point on this, but you also want. But yeah, I go first. So one suggestion that I want to give to everyone is like, please, please, please don't send pull requests out of the blue. Like, literally, go on an issue, open an issue before, say that you have the intention to do a change, and make sure the maintainers pre-approve it. Because I had to close so many libraries, so many pull requests for libraries that I maintain, because, like, I mean, the feature was nice, but it was just like going in the wrong direction, or like 1,000 lines of code. I'm not reviewing that. So have pre-approval. That's the best way that you can do to make sure your code lands. And like I had discussions on issues in the past with potential contributors. I told them like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Then they send a pull request. Then maybe they sort of ghost it, like they don't follow up. But then what I try to do, I force push on their branch and I merge it so that they still have their contribution accounted for and they appear as a contributor, but they did the first step. But I had to close so many because people just think that they have like an amazing idea and they are afraid of going public before. While that's not the path to success. You really need to speak earlier on with maintainers, and also reaching out to folks like at conferences. So like I had people speaking with me 2 days ago. They want to contribute to Chucker, and we had discussions on like what are the areas where we can contribute. So please, yeah, reach out to maintainers. You wanted to add something also, yeah?
I wanted to say what you said, 100%. That I want to, now you make me think about an interesting story. In refresh versions, we were not supporting Kotlin.js NPM dependencies because it's not really standard. And someone made a huge pull request. You imagine like thousands of lines. And it was actually not bad, but there was some decision where like I had to think, do we really want to do it that way? And I hadn't reviewed all of it. Like I postponed it because like many lines and like later. And at some point, what we did is that I paired with the guys that sent the pull request. So we had a video call. He was sharing me his screen, or maybe I was sharing my screen looking at his pull request. I don't recall. And we really looked, so I understood 100% of what he did, and I could see what was missing or not. And that was actually nice. Pairing remotely, if you have a good enough microphone and connection. We don't care about the webcam. 720p or less is okay, but microphone, good audio, otherwise you are going to get tired. And then you are in front of the computer. It's not like looking at an angle, so it's even better than in real life. Trust me, I tried doing pairing with someone that I did remotely, and it was better at home.
Awesome. So we are going to pick a question from the agenda, but for folks in the audience, please keep on voting because the next question is going to be the most voted one. But the question we're asking now is, do you have like any common misconception or like myths around the open source world that you want to debunk, that you think like, yeah, people keep on saying that about open source, but that's actually not true. The reality is different. Louis.
Yes. People might think, and I personally thought that many years ago, that it's a closed circle to get to contribute to that project that seems to be very popular or very useful, usually both. Or maybe a less known project, but that you need. And actually, it's not a closed circle. What the reality is more that open source maintainers are usually really busy, but they are also quite welcoming. If you try to understand what you can bring to the project and to all of its users. So if you just try to interact in a meaningful way inside an issue or reporting an issue that wasn't there before, you try to not make them do useless work, but just try to really help taking care of what you are doing, especially at first when you are more familiar with the project, maybe you follow the new issues, you know exactly how it is, but at first just do some extra work and then you can really be helpful. One other way is also if you know that it's an easy fix and no one submitted it, you can submit a pull request for, say, a typo fix. Probably no need to open an issue for that. But if you are changing API, best to reach out to an issue. Or also, you can just reach out to the people in another way. You could, for example, if they are on the Kotlin Slack, slack.kotlin.in, if you are not there yet, you can sometimes just reach them, but don't ping them all the time. Try to make it, if it's helpful. Slack is great to share large snippets, but it's also private, so people don't see it. So if everyone does it over Slack, it's also not great.
Be nice.
But yeah, but it's not a closed circle. People are human in open source.
Arnaud, you want to add something?
Perhaps a thought about updating and trying to maintain all the compatible versions and have several ways to manage your versions. It's quite hard because we are in ecosystems where technologies are growing super fast. Then for us, it's on the free time, on trying to take the best to update everything. But it's something that is a hard task day by day to maintain all of this.
It is hard. Okay, so jumping on. I lost it. Amazing. Let me pick it back. Yeah, no, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry, Christian. You were asking, for many people, it's hard to use their personal time for open source development. Do you have any thoughts on how to foster free and open source culture in companies to contribute? That's also a good question.
Perhaps I can start.
Yeah.
I believe it's a good way to begin to open your knowledge as a company, to have your GitHub, the GitHub of your company, trying at least to share some expertise of your team, of what you are doing. Also, perhaps forked version of other project, and then propose something to the main project. I believe it's a good thing. Like Netflix open source engineering team were doing that a lot. Then this is a good example of company sharing really a lot. And also to recruit people, it's really interesting because then you can show internals and you can show things, and then it's really even more motivating to be part of that.
Usually a work on open source ends up being the best quality work you ever did in your company. So if the company cares about quality, open source is one contributor. Also you get to learn, people get to critique what you do, usually nicely, saying hello or bonjour. And also it can be a great way for the company to show the quality of the code that they are doing, which can attract other developers. If at some point your company needs or will need to recruit other folks. If you are a smaller company that doesn't care much about recruiting, it's still a way to retain the best employees, because training a new employee on the code base is harder, and you and maybe your colleagues might be more likely to stay if you are doing open source and try to do high quality and show it. So it can have multiple advantages going public about some of your technology. And sometimes you can also just fix bugs that you could not really fix the other way around, because maybe it's a transitive dependency that is causing a bug in your app, and maybe you should just contribute to the open source project to have that project, that thing fixed for good, and without having to like fork all of the libraries and build them all the time. Or if there's no CTO, just do it.
Well, I guess if none of that works, you can try the PR angle. I, for example, don't use any Square app, but I know about the company because of all their open source work. So maybe that works in your company, the PR angle.
Yeah, for me is, well, it's hard. It's all a matter of culture. And from my experience, it's also a matter of personal contributions. Like, you need to find a group of people that you trust and they all believe in open source. And that's actually how I think a lot of the culture around Square was born. So yeah, it's complicated because people sometimes don't even understand the value or don't know the processes around open source. Like, you don't answer to a GitHub issue the same way as you will reply to an email. It's a different thing, it's public. So yeah, it takes time. Like, for example, in our case, we have workshops to teach those skills internally and like let people be good open source citizen. But yeah, it's a long journey, and it takes a lot of discussions with management and so on.
Nicola?
Yeah.
I recall the first time I really asked to do open source as part of my paid time in my job. I came to ask my boss, hey, so we want to do this thing with Bluetooth to energy, and the API is very hard. But I think I see how I can make it simpler with coroutines. And so I told him, okay, so I want to make using Bluetooth to energy easier, but for what we are going to do with after, it's okay to not open source it. And he was like, oh, so if we are not really helping like a direct competitor, but we are helping the community. And I told him, you know, that Android is open source, you know, that everything that we use in our app, a lot of stuff are standing on open source. And they're like, oh, okay, it doesn't seem a risk for the business, so why not? And it's PR, as you tell. So it was okay.
Okay, so we do have time for a last question, and I think it was asked in the list, but yeah, it's a common question that gets asked over and over to open source maintainer, and it's, what is the advice that you will give to people that are new to open source and they want to start? Like, what is your suggestions to get started with open source?
I think I'll continue on what you said earlier, like discuss in an issue before you open a pull request. Maybe start small. Don't add a new feature, you know, where you touch thousands of lines. Start with bug fixes. Those are usually easy, well, easier. And also on the other question, how do you know my code is good enough? I, for example, don't expect you to get it right the first time. I know much more about the project than you do when you start and try to fix a bug. So it's always a process. Like, try to fix the bug. I'm surprised if you get it right the first time. It's like a process, a discussion in the pull request then. How can we fix it better? And yeah, when you have some experience with the code base, you can maybe move to adding features, but then discuss your strategy beforehand. Otherwise, you might end up writing a lot of code that will get thrown away because it doesn't fit into the vision for the project.
I think we also kind of shadow answered that question several times. First, talk to the people. Yeah, I want to do that. And when they tell you, okay, do it, then you do it. And if you don't do it, tell, finally, I don't have time. I have 3 kids now, or whatever. And yeah, just don't go straight working. Make sure that it's the right thing to do.
I think you covered many of the topic of contributing, and the main way is communicate and try to share the basic idea at least, and also even for those who want to start something, like, because there is contribution and starting something in open source, and for those the company that want to do that is perhaps start simple, like Markdown, GitHub, have to share your ideas and the first snippets, code sample, everything, just something that is simple enough to help understand what you want to do, and then open yourself and let's go.
Awesome. I can add a couple of points that you folks haven't mentioned. First, I would suggest everyone to contribute to a project that you use. Don't try to get a project which is like super popular, like thousands of stars, but you don't use it, because you will be missing a lot of perspective on the workflow of the project and so on. So stuff that you use, start small, as other folks also mentioned. And then there are initiatives like Oktoberfest, or for example, one thing that we do is we open those umbrella tasks, which have the umbrella emoji. And those are like entry points for new contributors. Like what we do is like we describe, for example, this is the list of tasks that we would love to see, and like you can get this file, change that line, write a test for it, and this is how you test it, and how you effectively contribute, and those instructions are like really simple and easy for everyone. That allows you to get familiar with the project, send your first contribution, make sure that the CI is green once you send it because you tested locally, so the chance of that contribution being merged increases quite a lot. So search for projects that are open to contributions, like have initiatives like these, or accept to participate to Oktoberfest and so on, because they will be way, way easier.
Yeah, there are also, usually there are labels like up for grabs, or usually it's green, or good first issue, usually purple. But just look at the labels on the issues on GitHub. And I want to talk back about starting your own project. Probably not the first thing to do, but if you want, and it's hard for you to manage how to publish a library, which is something notoriously hard if you are publishing on Maven Central, where you should publish, please avoid Jetpack, because malware you can change the code for 7 days, so you can easily put malware and then remove it, and so I don't like that. I don't use Jetpack. But Maven Central is a bit hard, but you can just make the library without the publishing part, and if you have something good, you have a documentation that makes it easy to understand, then you can reach out to another library maintainer and tell, hey, can you help me on the setup, if you really could not figure it out, or if you don't have the time but you believe this is a really good contribution. You can get help from others, just reaching them out personally, sometimes it works.
Totally. So we do have a couple of minutes left, and I want you folks to give the opportunity to share like where people can find you online, if you have projects that are actively looking for contributors, opportunities for folks to engage with you. I know you will be around in the conference, so people can stop you if they want, but let's add some references.
Yeah, Coin framework is still open, and if you have a good case, a good stuff, or something even that is not working at all, even more, it's best. Then you can come chat, open an issue, even on JetBrains Slack instance, on Twitter also. There is for the coin project, insert coin.io project, and you can find anything to reach all the community. And of course, open discussion on GitHub, this is the best. And this is the way to grow together, is sharing your experience, sharing also why it's not working, or perhaps the good feature you have in mind, and yeah, come talk with us.
You can find me on Kotlin Slack, on Twitter, my DMs are open. You can also find my email on my GitHub profile. You can go to an issue and comment, but this time I'm really behind on GitHub notifications, beware.
Same.
And I have almost a means of communication, but that's a good start.
So I go the other way. If you live in Berlin, drop by one of the Berlindroid meetups, the Android developer meetup in Berlin. There you can find me. Otherwise, I have a very uncommon name, so if you put it in a search engine of your choice, you can find me. Also, the Berlindroid community has a Slack that you also find via one of these search engines.
Awesome. You can find me online as Corti&Nico on GitHub, on Twitter, on Threads now also. And, and the project that I'm more looking for maintainers at this point is Detect. We are starting the development of Detect 2.0. So yeah, we're looking for contributors if you're looking to like doing more things with Kotlin, static analyzers, and so on. This is, yeah, there is a discussion on the Detect repo with all the action items, like all the tasks that people can take and start doing. And with this, I want to, folks, thank you very much for being with us on stage, and I want to thank everyone for listening.